So now we're moving on to the construction of our triple Playtime shorts. We have all of our pieces cut out. So we have our waistband, and then we'll cut the 1-inch elastic here in a little bit. We have our two back panels, our front panel, and then our pieces for the ruffle. As I talked about in the previous video, I had to add just a little bit of a strip to get my piece long enough. The great thing is when we gather this and make it the ruffle, you won't be able to tell that we had to gather a little piece or join a little piece there. So the first step we're going to do is we are going to sew together our crotch seams. So right sides together, we're going to take our front pieces and pin them right here. This is the crotch curve here. So that is the piece that we want to sew. That is our first step. So again, I use clips when I sew. You can use anything that you would like. This is what I use. So now we're going to take that was our front panel, and now we are going to take our back panels and pin them. And I'm going to go and sew these on my serger. If you don't have one, that is completely fine. You can use your sewing machine. But since I'm using a woven, I need to make sure that I finish my edges. And so the serger does that while it sews it together. So it's kind of a one-step deal. If you are using just a sewing machine, so what you want to do is you'll sew it, and then you either want to use pinking shears to kind of finish those edges, or you could use a zigzag stitch to finish those edges. So I'll be right back. We are going to sew our seams together. All right, we have our front and back short pieces all sewn together. So we sewed the crotch curve, and then I always just give them a real quick press to one side or the other. It just makes for a nicer looking finished garment. So now what we're going to do is now we are going to sew our front and our back pieces together. So what we're going to do is we have the crotch curve here. This is the crotch curve that we just sewed. So this makes this the side seams, the legs, and right here is actually the inseam. That's the back piece, and then here's the front piece. So the side seams here, and right here at the bottom of where we so the crotch curve is the inseam. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to sew the two inseams together. So just put those right side together. They should match up. Pin them here. And then take them on to your sewing machine or serger and just sew right along there. Remember to use your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now we have our shorts all in one piece. So this is where you would choose your trim option. You can choose your ruffle, you can choose your pleat, you can choose your banded hem. It's completely up to you. In another video, I'm going to show how to gather with the serger for this, for the purposes of this sew along. Since I'm doing the ruffled option, you can choose any option you want. There will also be the pleating or the banded, or if you're using knit, you wouldn't have to do the rolled hem or anything like that. So now I'm going to go get reset with my serger to do the gathering video, the rolled hem and the gathering video. So I will be right back. Okay, we are getting ready to attach our gather to our triple Playtime shorts. So if you remember, if you did the gather on your serger, kind of what I recommend is I have the shorter end of my tail, and so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tie this end off. So when I'm adjusting my gather, I don't lose it on one end and you lose all your hard work. So what we're going to do with our gather here is we are now going to take it from this is our front panel. So we're going to take it and attach it all the way from our front panel all the way down and all the way back up to our rear panel. So just this whole whole edge here is where our gather is going to be. So as you can see, obviously my gather is too short. So I'm going to kind of pull this out a little bit, and that's why we left the long tail, because you need some thread for your gather to move along. If you have too short ends, then you'll just lose the gather, and we don't want that. So I'm going to sit here and adjust my gather to make sure it's the right length. So like I said, we're going to attach our gather all along the edge here. And kind of usually what I do is I try to guesstimate. I guess you can say I'm going to kind of walk it along the edge here to see how much I need to lengthen this ruffle by. So actually I don't need much further, so I will just keep it all on here and just kind of pull it. And then once I know I have my gather at my ruffle at the right length, I actually tie it off, and then I will go back and all right, so we are at the length we need to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that tail of the serger tail, or if you did the 2 lines of basting stitches, anything like that, you now want to tie it off because you know you have your length right. And then go ahead and I always cut all my loose threads. So now we have one end that's not kind of gathered or ruffled at all, and then this end that is. So now we just want to go through and even out our ruffle. And just kind of move those gathers until you have kind of evened out. So then I just take a look here, kind of make sure we got and see if you'll notice that once you kind of have it gathered and ruffled, you can't really see that seam where we had to lengthen our fabric a little bit because we are in a little bit of the upper sizes. So I'm happy with that ruffle actually. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to take our ruffle and we are going to pin it right side. So here's our rolled hem, and then here's where we gathered. So we want to take the gathered edge and attach it to the edge of the shorts, and then just pin along. Pin, clip, I call it. I still call it pin, even though I use clips. I don't know why I still call it. I clip mostly. I mean, I have pins, but I hardly ever use pins. I just prefer clips. All right, so we're just going to go along and get that all pinned and follow that curve down through the inseam. Almost done here. And once you make these shorts, first off, you want to just keep making more because they are so fun. And they are really a super quick and fun sew. They just have a fun little detail, and my little girl loves them. So she gets a lot for summer, and with all the different options of fabrics and prints and trims, you can really make them over and over again, and no two will be the same. So that's really kind of fun too. So I've made solids, I've made prints. It's kind of nice to just have, for her to have just some plain shorts, but with a cute little detail. Like all black would be really cute with a ruffle or with the pleat. Okay, so now as you see, we have our ruffle all pinned to the edge. So now what I would definitely suggest is using a basting stitch to attach your ruffle. So when you're either sewing or serging on your ruffle, you kind of have that secured. The basting stitch is nice because if you mess up, or if your fabric shifts, or you get off a little wonky or something like that, it's so easy to take out and redo. So it's for something like this, and it kind of also like locks in your ruffles, so you don't kind of lose those ruffles. So I'm gonna attach to the other side, and then I will baste on my ruffle, and then I will go through and I will serge it on. So I will meet you back here after I have sewn on both of my ruffles. Okay, back. We have our trim piece now attached to our shorts. So what we're actually going to do now is, we got to connect the front and the back panels. So the front is the smaller piece, and it has more of that curve, and then the back piece. So we have, this is the waistband here, that straighter edge here, and then on the back you'll notice that we have the waistband, and then we kind of have this raw edge here. That is where you are going to take your front. So you meet your front and your back side panels right at your waistband. You put those up right sides together. Now it's really important that your whichever trim option you picked is sandwiched in between those two layers. You don't want them flipped out like this. You don't want them sandwiched like that, because then they won't show on the right sides of your shorts. So trim option sandwiched between the front and the back layers right at the waistband. That's where we're going to attach it for now. Pin or clip, and then you're going to continue to pin and clip all along that side seam. Now you'll notice, like, you have your back panel piece kind of flips up like that. You're just going to ease it and curve it into that front piece. And you might have a little bit of your trim hanging over. That's fine, either when you're finished sewing it or cut it off with your serger, whatever you choose. So there's the end of my back piece, and we want to pin or clip right there. And that's how we do the side seam. So I'll do the other side real quick. Okay, so starting at the waistband, making sure my trim piece is sandwiched. Start at the top at the waist, and then just pin or clip all the way down. And then we're going to start as it curves, because they're kind of opposite curves. As it curves, you want to kind of ease that back panel to curve with your front panel. Again, you might have a little bit of that trim kind of hanging over. Either cut it off after you serge or sew it, or just serge it off. Okay, so now we have that. So now we are going to sew or serge, whatever, sew right where we pinned or clipped. And I will be right back to show you what that finished product looks like. So now we're at the step where we are getting ready to top stitch our triple Playtime shorts. So we have them all sewn together here. So now we just need to turn them inside out, wrong side out. And now we are just going to make sure that we press that ruffle, band, pleat, whichever one you decided to do, that we kind of, we press it up, so towards the shorts. So that when we top stitch, we kind of catch that seam, and it leaves a nice finished, and then the trim lays flat. So and then on the side, we just want to press the band or the trim towards the front of the shorts, because that's where we'll top stitch. So if you turn them, you'll want to turn, this is the front of the shorts, so you'll just want to make sure you press that the trim piece, and that's all you do. So then we will go, and I'll finish pressing the other side, but so you want to do both sides of the shorts. But when we go to top stitch, again, we're just going to top stitch right along the edge there, and then that just holds down your trim piece and gives it a nice little finish. So we will be back to do our waistband.